Well, I doubt if the leader has ever given a more popular statement to the House of Commons, and I thank her very much. More seriously, this is a very welcome development. It will give guidance to colleagues and their families, and I'm sure will be widely welcomed across the House. I thank her for that. Madam Deputy Speaker, I understand that Robert Gibbs, the acting Director of Catering Services, will be leaving on Friday after 25 years in this House. Now, one shudders to think of the thousands of members of the Commons and their staff whose lives will have been enriched by the joy of eating the food of the catering services under his command, and we thank him very, very much for his service. I'm sure the whole House will want to join me in thanking him for his work. We are getting close to the end of term, and I want in the same spirit to thank all of the staff of the Commons for their service, and of course you, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Speaker and the other Deputy Speakers, and the clerks for the resilience, courage, determination and, of course, poker faces that you have kept during all the business questions we have had since the beginning of the year. But this may come as slightly more of a surprise to the House. I also want to thank the Leader of the House. No one who has not been there understands the amount of work involved in scheduling and managing the business of this House, let alone the amount of work involved in scheduling and managing the Prime Minister and Cabinet colleagues. The Leader of the House distinguished herself with her very graceful response to my remarks about my father some months ago. I thank her for that again. And I also want to thank her for the engagement and the humour, and I must say more than a few groan-inducing puns, of which we will undoubtedly see considerably more this morning, with which she has dealt with questions from colleagues across all parts of this House. I hope I may register it's a slight sadness to me that she has not been willing to answer my own questions in the same spirit. I don't ask those questions in a personal capacity, but as the spokesman of His Majesty's official opposition, whose function is, after all, to hold the government to account. So the refusal to answer genuine, sensible questions is actually a discourtesy not just to the House, but also to our wider constitutional framework, and ultimately to the supreme source of sovereign authority in this country, that is the King in Parliament. I think any fair-minded person reviewing our exchanges would conclude that my questions are almost always directed at some public purpose, and I think it would undoubtedly improve business questions and of course improve the leader's own accountability and authority if she were able to engage with them. In the same spirit, I now want to raise some serious questions about what the government's position is in regard to Northern Ireland veterans. As the leader will know, hundreds and thousands of men and women went to Northern Ireland, not of their own accord, but under orders and in a chain of command on the Queen's business to combat the most serious terrorist organisation in the world at the time and to protect human lives and human society. Many of those veterans, including many members of Special Forces, cannot now respond to the terrible injustice that is being done to them. Almost exactly a year ago, and barely 3 weeks after the election, the government decided to abandon the appeals to the Supreme Court that were in order to uphold the key sections of the Legacy Act against a High Court judgment in Northern Ireland. In the Veterans' debate on Monday, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland said that these sections were, and I quote, unlawful as a result of the judgment. Yesterday, in Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister himself said twice that the Legacy Act had been, and I quote, struck down. Unfortunately, Madam Deputy Speaker, all these statements are both untrue and misleading. There can be no doubt what the law is on this topic. A succession of the most senior judges in recent British history, Judges Steyn, Hope, Bingham, Hale and Reid among them, have made absolutely clear that a declaration of incompatibility does not mean a law is unlawful or has been struck down. As the then senior law lord, Lord Bingham, said in 2004, in such cases, and I quote, the validity of the law remains unaffected. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland is no lawyer, but he should understand this basic point given his job. The Prime Minister, however, has been a barrister for 38 years and a human rights lawyer for most of that time. It is inconceivable that he did not understand the distinction, and to that extent he was, whether deliberately or inadvertently, misleading the House. The Secretary of State appeared to say that he had abandoned these appeals on political grounds, and it's plain that the government is split and has been unable to develop a satisfactory legal remedy in the 12 months since it abandoned the appeals, leaving thousands of veterans many in their 70s and older, exposed to legal harassment, anxiety and trauma. So I want to put two serious and substantive questions to the Leader of the House. As Leader, upholding the practices, the tradition and the honour of this House, will she ask the Secretary of State and the Prime Minister to correct these false and misleading statements to the House? And when will we see the legislation to address the legal gap which the government's decision to abandon these Legacy Act appeals has created?